Oh, wow. We're tilted up very high. Let's do that. All right. It is podcast time. As always, got to make sure that I am well caffeinated for that. All right. So, guys, we're going to be talking about goal setting on the podcast today. So, I'm going to give it a minute, let a few people tune in, and we are going to be talking about goal setting. However, as you guys tune in, make sure to drop a comment. Let me know how things are going. Let me know how training's going. If you've got fights coming up, and make sure that you let me know as well what kind of things you'd like to hear more about on these shows. Give me 1 second. Hopefully that fixed the volume issue on the Instagram stream. Yeah, let me know what else you'd like to hear about on these shows. And today, guys, we're talking about goal setting. We're going to get into it in about 30 seconds. Just to confirm, can you hear me? Yes? Somebody just drop a yes or a thumbs up in the comments there to let me know that it's working. I'll wait until I see that. Yes, perfect. All right. Somebody just said that they couldn't, so I just wanted to make sure that other people were hearing me. Perfect. I'm seeing that we're good. Oh, lots of people answering. Appreciate you all. All right, guys. Goal setting. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dussault, and today we're talking about goal setting. Now, we're getting to the end of the year, and that brings up a very familiar time with a lot of people, which is the New Year's resolutions. Now, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, when it comes to, this, a lot of the time, high-level athletes have it in their heads that, oh, I'm not like that because, I'm dedicated to my goals and all of these things. And the thing is, I see a lot of athletes still make the mistake and fall for the whole New Year's resolution thing. And I'm going to talk you through basically what I mean. A lot of the time around this time of year, I hear athletes tell me, the things that they're going to accomplish next year. Oh, next year I'm going to start, doing this. I'm going to reach this level. I'm going to get this far. I'm going to start, working with a strength coach. I'm going to start, doing whatever else it might be that is going to, help them move forward in that upcoming year. And the big thing that I see athletes make a mistake with is I see a lot of athletes that'll say those things and then say, because I have these big goals for next year, I'm going to put it off to the start of the year to actually start working at them. So, I'm going to achieve all these great things next year. I'm not going to miss a single training session. I'm going to do all of this. So I'm just going to kind of take it easy for the rest of the year so that in 2024, I'm going to start doing that. And I'm coming to tell you that this is one of the worst mistakes you can make, because especially like now we're kind of in that last 2 weeks, but like especially coming into like the last couple of months of the year, when athletes do this, basically what you're saying is, I'm going to work super hard next year so I won't worry too much about it for the rest of this year. And it's just not the way to get ahead. So I wanted to talk about this today because of that, but I also want to get into how you can start setting proper goals for the year, and then in turn, things that you can do to start working towards them right now, right? Because taking that same mentality of the things you want to accomplish in 2024, but starting to step into that now, starting to work at that now. And this was something I had a conversation with my business coaches about quite recently. They were talking about like goals for 2024, things you want to achieve. But then as we started talking about them, it was set a game plan and go, not, wait until 2024 starts to actually start working on that game plan. So basically, guys, #1 is make sure that you are setting goals early. So it's like we're 2 weeks out from the start of a new year. You should have an idea what you want your 2024 to look like. But instead of waiting and relaxing and, taking care of it when you get there, start working towards it right now. Like one of the goals that I have for 2024 is to buy a house. And with that goal of buying a house, I'm not just sitting around and kind of, waiting until the year comes. I've started talking to realtors. I've started getting an idea of, mortgages that I'm going to be qualified for. I've started putting in those first few steps towards actually buying a house, right now so that I can do it earlier in the year and I can make sure that I'm checking that goal off of my list. Which brings me to the final point, which is set goals outside of just your sport. I get that a lot of people listening to this are athletes. A lot of people listening to this have a lot of sport related goals, but you've also got to understand that, you're a human being outside of that too. And you want to set goals in every area of your life. So the framework that I want you to use and the framework that's going to benefit you a lot when it comes to setting goals coming into a new year is number one, the sport goals. So number one, in your sport specifically, what is it that you want to achieve this year? How far do you want to get this year? What were you doing last year that you want to stop doing this year? And then list out those goals for your sport. And that part's important. First, how far do you want to actually get? So what do you actually want to accomplish within the sport? And next, is there anything right now that you're doing that would be a good goal to set to stop doing? Right? So that would be something like, making sure that one of your goals is I'm going to stop. Like one of the goals I had a couple of years back when it came to business was stopping making excuses of why I wasn't getting things done. Right. And I've talked a lot about that on this podcast before, which is, shifting your mindset from saying I can't do something to how can I do something, or I can't do something to it's not a priority for me right now. And just making that shift in my mind was one of the goals that I set for myself over the last couple of years. And it's something that has served me very well. Now, when you make the goals for your sport, what you want to accomplish, what you want to stop doing. Now, the next part we want to look at is wealth. So, financially, where do you want to be a year from now? And for some athletes, if you're a pro, hopefully that, one is going with the other. If you're not a professional right now and you're not making money from your sport, where do you want to be financially a year from now? And even those lower level pros that aren't getting paid a ton of money for their first two fights, where do you want to be financially a year from now? Because a lot of athletes go into it just thinking, I'm just going to keep training, I'm just going to keep competing, and then eventually things are going to get better. But if you come into the year with a plan, my goal is to be making $2,000 a month off of sponsorships and, alternative income streams from my sport. Right now, okay, I've got an idea. Now you can start putting a plan in motion of how you're going to have that $2,000 a month coming in from your career outside of just the fights. Right. So when it comes to wealth goals, when it comes to, financially where you want to be, it's not just setting a number of, this is how much money I want to make, but it's figuring out, how do I want to be making that money, and then setting a game plan to actually accomplish the goal. Right. So if you need, as an example, $2,500 a month coming in to be comfortably paying your bills, maybe that wealth goal is I'm going to be making enough money this year from my sport that I can quit my job, right? Maybe if you're an amateur athlete, it has nothing to do with the sport itself. Or maybe if you're an amateur athlete, one of the wealth goals is I want to, accumulate 5 sponsors this year so that when I step into the pros, I'm going to be in a better financial position to do so. Now, excuse me, or maybe it's starting a business entirely outside of the sport. Whatever it is for you, set the goal of what you actually want, the actual outcome. I want $2,500 a month coming in from, myself as an athlete. And then you can start trying to figure out the game plan that you are actually going to use to accomplish that goal. And then the next thing, guys, is relationships. And this is one that I've definitely neglected at times over the years, but this means family, this means significant others, this means all kinds of things. When you're coming into a new year, start thinking about what kind of person you want to be for the people around you. Do you want to be a better wife or husband? Do you want to be a better father or mother? Do you want to be a better sibling, a better child to your parents? I mean, if you're an adult, maybe not child, but I hope you get what I mean. And then start thinking about over the course of this past year, it's like, where have you been neglecting relationships, and what kind of goals can you set for yourself in order to come into this year with a more clear-cut plan on what kind of person you want to be for your family, what kind of person you want to be for the important people around you, and in turn, start setting the game plan for exactly how you're going to do that. And then finally, the last one that I really wanted to touch on is self. Now, self goals are extremely important. This is your personal development because, guys, it's great to, sit here and say, I'm an athlete, I'm just going to keep grinding hard and pushing. But like, everyone is grinding hard and pushing. You know what I mean? Like, anybody who's going to make it anywhere is pushing themselves hard. So if you are going to separate from that, if you are going to rise above that, you need to do more than what they are doing, or you need to do different things than what everyone else is doing. And when it comes to doing different things, when it comes to doing more, what I'm talking about is developing you as a person, right? Maybe this is the year that you stop just grinding hard through injuries and you start actually taking care of your body so that it can last longer when you're competing. Maybe this is the year that, you give yourself that hard stop of like, okay, by 8 o'clock every night, I need to have put training out of my mind so that I can relax, reset, and make sure that I'm fresh and I'm able to attack my next day. Maybe this is the year, like, pick those things for yourself. Maybe this is the year that you pick back up that old hobby that you stopped doing that you used to love 5 years ago, and you actually give yourself an outlet outside of the gym that allows you to stay fresh and allows you to stay excited about training, which in turn is going to give you a better result coming back into your sport anyway. So the self goals are an extremely important one here too. And so going back to some of the mental stuff that I've talked about on this show before is like self goals. Like for me, a number of years ago, I mentioned this on this episode already, was not using the word I can't anymore. Right. And switching I can't to how can I? Oh, I can't get everything done in my day because I'm so busy. Well, is it that you can't, or how can you actually find a way to do it? Oh, I can't afford to do that because money's tight. Is it that I can't, or is it that I'm not prioritizing my money properly? And that was one of my self goals. Probably, I think it was 2 years ago now, and it's made a massive difference to my life. And the reason it's made such a difference to my life is because, plain and simple, now instead of saying, oh, I can't do that, I ask myself, how can I do that? And with some tasks, when I ask myself, how can I do that? I realize that task isn't that important to me right now, so I don't do it. And with other tasks, it helps me find a way, or the big one for me was I can't afford it. Like I've talked about my business coaches a number of times on this podcast. It was most of the money I had in the bank to actually invest with them. But 2 years later, it's the best decision I ever made in my life because now my business is way bigger, more profitable. And in turn, I'm putting myself and my athletes in a way better position because I'm not spending every single day worried about money. And then on top of that, since joining that program, I've been able to travel to Australia. I've been able to go to an event and listen to some of my favorite speakers in the world live in Utah. This year, I'm going to be speaking at a couple of different places outside of Canada, which I'm super excited for, about my methods, something that never would have come up if I hadn't made this investment in my coaches. And so instead of saying, I can't afford it, I switched around with myself and I said, okay, how can I afford it? And then when I worked out what I was actually able to do, I was able to put the money down. It was scary, but I was able to do it. So I did it. And then in turn, it was able to scale up my whole business and honestly change my fucking life in less than 2 years. And I see someone on the stream saying, come speak in Ireland, DM me. We'll set something up for sure. Now, the main goal here, though, guys, is this is what setting those self goals can do, right? Because simply by switching that mindset around and spending really hard, concentrated time switching that in my brain, I was able to put myself in a position where I made an investment that years before there's no way I would have made, even if I had the money. And then because I was willing to make that investment, it has done so many other massive things for me down the road. So if you're an athlete listening to this and you're thinking, I'm just going to keep grinding, I'm just going to keep pushing, my challenge for you is think about what area of your life right now could help you improve in your sport, could help you improve in your life. Is it a little mindset thing like that? Is it day-to-day habits of, not prepping your meals properly, so not being properly fueled for training? Like, what is it for yourself, for your health, and for like that you can start doing that's going to help you drastically improve in every other area of your life. And if you start thinking about those things today, you have them set and you start working on them right away, you're going to be 2 weeks ahead of those people who say, yeah, I'm going to work on that next year. So guys, that is it. That is all. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. As always, this is honestly one of my favorite things during my week to do. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Monday, and I will catch you all on the next episode. Stick around. We're going to do a quick Q&A, and that is it. That is